home, and when you have permission and space, if you need permission. Some adults need permission. So, I do recommend playing with your saber, right? Going out and just getting comfortable with your saber. Don't hit things with it. It's not that durable. It's really for practice and not necessarily contact practice. But I want you to get comfortable using your saber and the weight of the saber. You should, most of the time, start your weapons training with a wooden saber. I know that the metal ones are cool. I waited until I was an instructor to even get this. I didn't have this until I was a second degree. I used a wooden sword all the way up until that point. And I never borrowed anyone else's. I just used the wooden one that I could get. Now, when you buy the wooden one, we buy the wooden one because the wooden one is a little heavier in the blade, so one, it strengthens the wrist and the forearm. But in addition, it also helps you do the moves, right? The saber kind of naturally does what it's supposed to do. If you keep a nice grip, not too firm though, because you're not trying to, that'll hurt your wrist. So if you keep a nice grip so that you don't lose it, I like to get grip tape. If you don't have grip tape, this is tennis tape, like Wilson tennis tape, just from Walmart. So that helps a lot, so my hand doesn't wear out, especially after teaching classes. But you can cut and turn over. The saber is heavy enough to naturally fall where you should want it to go, right? So after that, then you can get a metal saber. The metal saber, the ones that are semi-stiff, they don't make the ching-ching, they don't make the nice sound. I prefer me personally, I prefer these, the stiff ones. So if you have one of these, the weight is more in the blade. So, in the hilt, so in the hand, at the handle. So it's balanced. So if you know what you're doing, you can guide the saber where you know it's supposed to go. And it gives for a cleaner set. So let's get started. If you are using the saber, in the front of the shoulder. If you are not using the saber, behind the shoulder. Okay, take the stance. I'm going to do it towards you, and then I'm going to do it facing away from you so that you can do it with me. So I'm going to scoot over a little bit. If you're at home, know that the set runs left and then back to the right. So if you have enough space, or you can shorten your steps, or you can be sure to scoot as far right as you can so you can maximize your usage. So we're here. I'm going to go. The first two steps are the salute of this set, right? Even though we just named them 1 and 2. So it's the salute 1 and 2. Grab 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Keep together. Now, I only did those because I want to do them facing this direction towards you or away from you, so that you see the motion of the blade. Because once you become black sash, you can learn moves and you're comfortable with it, or whenever you become comfortable with it, you can be comfortable with red sash if you study and you're diligent. One thing that you'll be comfortable with is just moving the blade. So essentially, once you know the moves, the blade doesn't necessarily stop the way it would when we teach it to you. So I'm going to do that working down and chop it up a little bit, and then I'm going to speed it up and do it a little bit more fluidly so you see the difference. Step back a little bit. So here. Hopefully y'all can see. We got 1 and 2. We're going to grab, point back, lift. 1. It has to point so that it can turn over. Block up. 2. So it's not flat. 2. Notice the left hand always comes in. Anytime the blade is out, the left hand is in a prayer or chamber. Let's cut and trade. So blocking and cutting. Boom. Stepping feet together. And then we're going to step out. When I say out, I do mean out, but I also mean diagonally. So we're going to step this direction as well, because we have to do that so that we can get our nice strike. Now, if I didn't have the saber, that would be like the snake strikes from the earth. If you know that part of the set, guess it and post it in the comments. Ha! Now, so stomp. I'm going to step out diagonally and push. Shift back and press. Step, jump, press. Keep together. Right? That's the next couple moves. So So I'll be looking for those answers. It's the not snake strikes from the earth. It's monk summons corpse. Who can comment what section of the form that's from? I'm curious now. Okay. Now I'm going to start from the other side and do that same 10. So I'm going to scoot over. So I got 1 and 2. Looks just like the salute with a saber. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? Same way it looks just like there. With a sword. Shift back and strike. Press. Jump. Press. Block. Now when we step here, what we're simulating is a block in front of us, a protect behind us, and technically a load up. So it has two purposes, the sword being behind us. One is to protect, and 2 is to load after we block. Right? So we block the first. Let me try it again. So we're here. Let's see. We're here. When I come in, so we're blocking, and then I'm catching. So usually, saber fights against a long-range weapon. Saber is a short-range weapon. A long-range weapon would be something like a Kwandao, right? That's pretty big. The more popular is the spear, right? In most cultures, ancient and some indigenous cultures, you see that it's just a knife on a stick, right? So you sharpen a knife or a rock and tie it to a stick and put out a spear. Now, aside from hunting, it was used, if you wanted to keep someone away from you, a long stick with a knife on it, back in the day, probably do a really good job. Now, to get in close and to cut that down, 2 people with long sticks, somebody never wins unless you have the longer stick. But if you want to fight against that and get in close, you have to be faster and you have to have shorter motions, right? So the spear, you can be fast with it, but it takes quite a bit to get it fast. So if the spear's coming in, you simulate you have to block the spear. And as you block the tip of the spear, which is the dangerous part, you don't want to try to reach for that. So you block, and then you grab the stick of the spear. And as you grab the stick of the spear, you're going to turn that toe, but you don't want to step back because you're not necessarily retreating with the spear, because you could slice your hand, right? If the spear slipped through your hand. Instead, you're just going to guide the spear down in place so that you can cut the person holding the spear. Kind of graphic, but that's how it goes, right? That imagination gives you a very good expression of the motion, right, when you understand that, how that works. So, let's go. We just did the press. We're going to pull the hand in and block up. We're going to turn that toe in place and cut down. So we're pulling, boom, boom, down. Now, yes, we pull. If we were pulling, we'd have a closed fist. But in the form, you have to simulate, anytime you have a sword in your hand, these are sword fingers. There's always 2 fingers, and it simulates balancing out the action of the saber, right? Because any weapon that's in your hand is an extension of the body. That's what that expression kind of means, right? So you want to kind of balance that movement out. And then from there, we're going to shift up and block. Similar block that we just did, right? So we just did this block, and then we cut. Now we're doing that same block again from a bow stance. We're blocking, but this time, to get closer, instead of just stepping and cutting, we're going to actually block and jump in, right? So we're going to block and do a monkey hop, trying to get in close. Now the reason we keep the saber right there is because there's a spear, right? So we just blocked the spear and it's here. We want to keep the spear there and jump under as quick as we can and get the saber to our hip, right? And then we're going to pop our strike. Boom. Now I wanted to do it this direction. You can't see the blade as much because that's not what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you how the stance is held. The bow stance rule holds true in the saber set. So you have to have space between the legs for balance. Now, what you will see us imitating in the turning of our body, we're not trying to be two-dimensional in our stance, but we are trying to evade the thing we have just blocked, or potentially another thing that has come to strike us. So, after we blocked and we've done our jump, let me step back a little bit. So after we blocked and we've done our jump, I'm going to yank this back as quick as I can. This is is my other hand, right? This hand is here for blocking or aiming. So I'm blocking, boom, boom, boom. I can block something. So I'm blocking, and I'm going to strike. As I strike, if something's coming toward my face, I probably don't want it to touch me, so I'm not going to step into it. I'm going to block and try to stab past it. So their stance is correct, right? There's space between, but the body can turn, right? But we're not doing this. We're not hieroglyphs, because this is unbalanced, okay? Now, I'm going to do that set facing you once. I'm going to go ahead and add in those about 5 to 10 moves, and I'm going to do it again the other direction. I'm saying a lot because I want you to take in something. So if you don't understand all of it, let it wash over you. If you do understand what I'm saying, pick one or two of them and be sure to practice a few times after this on your own and incorporate what I said. If you understand it, incorporate what I said. And if you like, you can try to articulate it back to me in the comments, I believe on Facebook or YouTube. At this stance, stand tall, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Feet together, okay? I do realize that I didn't show you the smooth that way facing this direction. So I'm going to do that before I do it to where you can follow me. So watch it. I'm going to go a little smoother. 1, 2, down, and here we go. 1, 2, 3, right? One big circular motion that didn't stop for 3 whole stances, right? 1, 2, 3, and out. In addition, not just the saber, that's a lot to focus on. It's a nice pretty circle. The hand, the other hand, you have to move both. And if you don't want to accidentally catch one of these, you have to get in the habit of yanking it back in when it needs to be yanked and blocking with it for your benefit when necessary, and then getting it out of the way so the sword can do the business. Now, from here, we're going to go 1, 2. Notice the hand is constantly moving with the other hand. Boom, boom. Press, press, block, turn, so that you can strike. Strike. I'll go over that here in just a second. One time. 1, 2. Yank back. That's the load. I'm going to make space. And strike. Strike. Right? Stance is correct. Now, remember that advanced tip for the stance? Toes are actually turned the same direction. Don't hurt your knees if you don't know what I'm talking about. I haven't told you in person yet. But an advanced bow stance, the toes face the same direction, right? These front toes aren't straight. It's not a lunge like lifting weights or working out. So we're turning and pressing. Boom. Turn. Be balanced. Let's try it again. One thing I said I wanted to go over was this cut. A lot of times, even myself personally, in some of the old videos, I used to perform it and cut like that. Now, this is not a butter knife, and we're not necessarily cutting butter. But if you think about what this saber is made for, it's not made for what a katana is made for, and that is the Japanese art. So, katanas are made to go through, slice through. It's a very strong blade. Sabers are not that strong. Chinese metal just isn't as strong. It's not meant to slice through. It's meant to slice the surface. So, with that being said, slicing the surface, if there was something flat here, I couldn't press through, not with the strength of my forearm. I can only slice the surface and let the sharpness of the blade do what it does. So cut and here. I also don't want to ding the blade into the ground, which is what happens a lot of times. So not ding the blade into the ground, but have it go flat. Shift and press, and I'm going to jump, turn and spin. 1, 2, pull and strike. Correct stance. Lean forward. The blade. Okay. Last time. Begin.